In the previous episode, I made the 260-mile-long overnight passage from Durban to East London, the second leg of my coastal trip from Richards Bay to Cape Town. Here I make the 130-mile passage onwards to Port Elizabeth, which was long enough to require sailing overnight again. The weather window opened on Saturday, 22nd of November in the afternoon, and our plan was to use the last section of the Agulhas Current before it moved offshore. However, things did not quite go to plan. So we're leaving East London. It's 5:15 on whatever this is, Saturday. We got, I hope, a good window. And here is Nick. We had a little bump with his flight plan for leaving the harbour. They wouldn't let him leave it, so they hadn't received it, so I teamed up with him, came alongside, and we used my hotspot to resubmit his flight plan. But he's looking good, he's looking relaxed, and he's headed out, as am I. Tinley's is already gone, and we're headed to PE, to Port Elizabeth. As mentioned in a previous video, Draak is a Dreadnought 32, like Sea Change, designed by Bill Crelock, and coincidentally with topsides painted green. But she is a lot older than Sea Change. Nick is an extremely competent and independent sailor. For example, he has no autopilot or wind vane and uses sheet-to-tiller steering for all points of sail. Plus, he does not transmit or receive AIS, making his passage from Mauritius to South Africa and now around the coast particularly trying, given the density of shipping. This is the inside of Orient Beach Pier. We used to fish off it. I see a bunch of fishermen still on it. Great that that continues. And there's Orient Beach. That's where we used to swim when we were kids. And then the Esplanade, they're preparing for Christmas. They've got all sorts of displays out and lights ready. And then all the people, it's a Saturday evening, they're all down by the beach having dinner and enjoying the end of the day, even though it has turned grey. And then Eastern Beach is around the corner over there, and on up the coast. And we're going the other way, Port Elizabeth. There's Draak in front of us. It was an uneventful, if slow, night, and by 7 a.m. Sunday morning we were halfway there. Those were just three of hundreds upon hundreds of Cape gannets headed north, opposite direction to us. This is Sunday, November the 24th. It's about 8 a.m. and our breeze has simply not materialized on this trip from East London to Port Elizabeth. And so I've got very little sail out, and actually, to be honest, I'm not using it. It's just up there for show. I've been motoring way too much. Probably 7 pushing 8 hours now altogether. Sea is just, there's nothing. Anyway, the forecast today calls for 30 knots from the north. Well, we'll see what happens. It's almost flat calm now. The gannets continue to stream past, hundreds upon hundreds of them. And I'm just seeing a little sample here. It must be all the way up and down the coast. But here's what's changed. No wind, but cold air off the water. So I suspect we are fighting a countercurrent here, because the other side, look at that row of clouds. That's where the Mozambique current is. It's going offshore here. We left it early this morning. So all the warm air and moist air is over there above the current. Oh well, we have no choice. We're going to Port Elizabeth. Even some of the gannets have given up trying to fly, although, to be honest, the breeze is finally arriving. There's This northeasterly predicted for the longest time is finally coming. It's been a long haul this morning. 5 hours of motoring on top of 5 hours yesterday. Last night, I mean. And they sit, very pretty birds. And hundreds of them flying north. There must be maybe a sardine run or something going on. Now, finally, mid-afternoon, we have a decent northeasterly. Still not strong. Got full sail up, doing 5 knots against what I suspect is a little bit of countercurrent. But we have gannets all the time, flying every which direction. I don't see any of them diving at anything, so if there are sardines, there's a massive sardine run up this coast in the summer. They're not here yet, but these guys are all here expecting something. Anyway, doing 5 knots, sometimes 6. Got 35 hours to go to Port Elizabeth, and as usual, I will arrive in the dock. What a pain. There's a whole flight of gannets going through. It's just endless, all day. All those gannets that I was seeing earlier have converged all over here near the harbour, 10 miles out, and here they're plunge diving, and there's all sorts of dolphins and other fish jumping. It's an absolute melee, feeding frenzy. There's petrels coming through. It's fantastic, right at sunset. Look at them, just diving in. They're like spears going into the water. And then they fly underneath the water to chase the fish. And then right here, I've got dolphins, or at least I had. Yeah, there they are. Kind of hard to see the light now. And we have sunset. And the high buildings of Port Elizabeth right behind. I'm going to get in the twilight. I'm about an hour out. Look, I don't know if you can see it, but they are screaming. There are thousands and thousands of gannets. Oh, and here's porpoises jumping, coming to join me right on the front. I need to zoom out a bit. There they are. Nice. Alright, what a great arrival in Port Elizabeth. Man, oh man. Ah yes, a whole bunch of them. They are enjoying this ride. I'm doing about 9 knots. No, that's not true. I'm doing about 6-7 knots. Alright, what fun. Christoph and I avoided the next southwesterly blow with a 2-day road trip from Port Elizabeth, first to nearby Addo Elephant National Park. It was now early summer, and the area was wonderfully green and lush. On the second day, we traveled through the Klein Karoo semi-desert region, coming across this painting on the roadside of the old and new South African flags. We finally found a small herd of springbok here, our national animal for which the national teams are named, like the rugby team. And we are in the Klein Karoo for real. Look at this road. Absolutely straight. There's our little car and Christoph. In the other direction, absolutely straight. And then just a little bit further we see Gamsbok. 7 of them with a bunch of springbok. Wow, this is really special. You don't see this every day. They're the most beautiful animals. Long, sharp horns. You've heard of 4-lane highways? You've heard of 2-lane highways? But have you ever heard of a 1-lane highway? one-lane highway. And if you want to pass, or somebody comes the other side, you have to put two wheels over in the gravel. This is Jeffreys Bay, South Africa's premier surfing site where they hold the international competitions. There's not much happening today. The wind is very strong offshore, killing the waves, but nonetheless there's some nice waves feeding through here, and I'm a little surprised there are no surfers here today. It goes all the way down there. There's one lonely surfer way at the end there. This is an unusual sight, draak in a marina slip. Nick far prefers anchoring, but it simply was not possible here. But he managed to anchor everywhere else in South Africa, although he had to skip Cape Town and go on to Saldanha Bay. I had noticed coming into Port Elizabeth that the transmission was slipping in forward gear as well now, so I would not be able to enter and exit the next obvious port of Knysna, which is quite difficult. And I was not enthused about visiting the second obvious port of Mossel Bay, where the marina was being renovated, so the options were a high concrete dock or anchor outside the harbour. With a seemingly endless series of low-pressure systems coming through bringing adverse westerly headwinds, I decided to wait for a really good weather window and flew to Cape Town for kitesurfing and hiking. I could now also watch the premier kiteboarding competition of the year, the Red Bull King of the Air, that is held each summer season in Cape Town, with 18 of the world's top male kiteboarders competing and an inaugural women's division too. I met up with my local and other visiting kitesurfer friends at the event, the first day of which lasted past sunset on the 1st of December. I'm on a hike here with my sister's hiking group, used to be my mom's hiking group. We're on the backside of Table Mountain, and there are just beautiful pink Watsonias everywhere. Later in the season they'll be orange and red. The hike led up a stream with numerous inviting pools. Meanwhile, the World Ark and Oyster rally boats, about 20 each, were making their way around the coast along with regular cruisers, as shown in this marine traffic view of only recreational vessels, the vast majority of which are sailboats. Another excursion was to Cape Point National Park, where some brilliant red proteas were flowering and the baboons occupied the road. The final day of the King of the Air was held on December 8th, and again the final heat concluded after sunset. Another excursion was to Saldanha Bay Yacht Club to visit Nick on draak, anchored on the left here outside their mooring field, which led to this remarkable experience. I'm on Nick's boat Drake in Saldanha Bay, and there's thousands and thousands of cormorants just absolutely launching in here. Look at this. Wow, they must be chasing a huge flock of small fish. Wow. Wow, this is off the charts. Good Lord. And they're coming right into the harbour, right amongst the yachts. Jeez. Wow. Thousands and thousands of them. But you know, they're not coming up with fish in their bills. Maybe they can't swallow them underneath, can they? Yeah, man, I don't know. Wow, look at that. They're going right to the shore. That was something else. At a reception at the Royal Cape Yacht Club, organized by the Ocean Cruising Club, I had the pleasure of meeting Andrea and Mike Golding again, and the next day hiked up Table Mountain with a few other sailors. While in Cape Town, we were all reminded of why we don't sail in the tropics during cyclone season, when Cyclone Chido hammered the popular small island of Mayotte east of the Comoros, causing massive sailboat losses. I enjoyed these 3 weeks in Cape Town with lots of kitesurfing, although I missed the strongest day of the year when the pros were jumping over 30 meters high, as I was flying back to Port Elizabeth in hopes of a favorable weather window to complete the season with the final 400-mile passage to Cape Town.